In 1627, two men crossed the great snowy mountains into a land no European had ever seen. They weren't soldiers or merchants, they were Jesuit priests on a mission that bordered on the impossible. Their journey would take them from the tropical Malabar coast to the fortress monasteries of Bhutan. They were searching for a lost Christian empire, but instead, they found a nation being born in the clouds. This is the story of the first Westerners to enter the land of the Thunder Dragon. To understand why these men risked everything, you have to understand the Jesuit obsession. By the early 1600s, the Society of Jesus was convinced that an overland route existed through the Himalayas to Cathay, the fabled land of Marco Polo. Esteban Casella, a seasoned missionary, and the younger João Cabral were tasked with finding it. They weren't just looking for converts, they were looking for Prester John, a legendary Christian king thought to be hiding somewhere in the heart of Asia, their gateway, a mysterious region the locals called Bothanta. The journey was brutal. After 6 months in the humid heat of Bengal, the pair began their ascent in late 1626, the first Europeans to brave the Himalayas in the dead of winter. Near the Bhutanese border, disaster struck. They were deceived and robbed of everything. Their clothes, their equipment, their gifts for the local lords, all gone. When they finally reached the town of Paro in February 1627, they didn't look like powerful envoys. They looked like beggars. Yet, this vulnerability might have been exactly why they were allowed to stay. They were granted an audience with the man building Bhutan, Zhabdrung Ngawang Namgyal. Casella's reports give us the only contemporary European description of this legendary leader. Casella described him as intelligent and high energy, a monk king who had just finished a 3-year silent retreat. But there's a historical mystery here. While Casella claimed they were penniless, Bhutanese records suggest these Portuguese visitors presented the Zhabdrung with guns, gunpowder and a telescope. Whether through charity or secret military aid, a strange bond was formed. In October 1627, the mission moved to the Thimphu Valley. Incredibly, the Zhabdrung allowed these Jesuits to establish a Christian chapel inside the Cherry Monastery, the first of its kind in the Himalayas. But the mission was fueled by a misunderstanding. When the Jesuits asked about Cathay, the Zhabdrung spoke of Zembala or Shambhala. Casella mistook this spiritual paradise for a physical kingdom. This single linguistic error introduced the myth of Shambhala to the Western world, eventually evolving into the legend of Shangri-La. The friendship didn't last. The Zhabdrung wanted the Jesuits as permanent assets. The Jesuits wanted to move on to Tibet. By the end of 1627, they betrayed the Zhabdrung by seeking help from his rivals to cross the border. They reached Shigatse, but the high Tibetan plateau was a death trap. In 1630, exhausted and weakened by the climate, Esteban Casella died at age 45. The mission collapsed shortly after. The Jesuits never converted a single soul in Bhutan. By the standards of the Church, the mission was a failure, but for history, it was a triumph. They left us the first ethnographic map of a nation in its infancy. They connected the Vatican to the Himalayas and turned a Tibetan myth into a Western obsession.